You're live. Mm, yeah. Mhm. Okay. Oh, hi Victor. How are you doing? Thank you for joining. All right. Good day, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning. Good evening, wherever you're watching us from. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to today's live session. Oh, we have a lot of people joining. Thank you all for joining. As usual, please, I would appreciate if you drop your thank you. Thank you, Juliet. Thank you, Juliet. Yeah. Yeah. Good evening, Sir Peter. Good evening, everyone. I'm just saying good evening. Okay, yes, based on what you said. Good evening. All right. You are welcome to today's live session. It's gonna be like a very interesting, educative, and concise session. So I want you guys to please share on your status. Good evening, Scholar Biola. Good evening, Sir Stephen. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much. I would appreciate if you guys can share this on your status. Let people join in. Let them know that we are live right now. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you. So, yes, the long awaited session is finally here. Okay, I get so many questions. I want to study in Canada. How can I study in Canada? How can I get a scholarship? How can I do this? How can I do that? I did not go through the study abroad road to Canada, but yes, we have someone here who went from Africa to Canada to study. Okay, and he's here to share his experience with us. All right, guys. So I want you guys to please pay attention during the session. If you have any question, just drop your questions in the comment section. I just want you to pay attention. I have my questions just as usual. I'm going to be asking in, and let us learn. And I believe you're going to make use of this great opportunity. So thank you so much, sir, for coming to educate us and study abroad, for gracing our invite. Thank you so much. And if
Yeah,
you
no
don't
problem.
mind, I would like you to introduce yourself to the viewers that are watching you, sir.
Okay. Good morning, evening, afternoon to everybody watching. My name is Muideen Adigbite. I'm currently based in Calgary, Alberta, in Canada, and I attended the University of Calgary for my master's in mechanical engineering. Yeah, that's about me.
Great, great. Thank you. So I usually hear like Calgary. Like Calgary is in what province in Canada? Like, is it like
It's in Alberta.
oh, Alberta?
So Alberta is the province. Calgary is a city here.
Oh, okay, nice. How is the weather over there? How is it going?
Yeah, I mean it's good now. It's summer, spring.
Oh,
We're still in spring, really. So,
wow.
but it's good now. It's summer like now, and when it gets cold, it gets pretty cold too.
Yes, Canada is
Yeah,
a
because yeah,
yeah.
so it gets up to like -40, -30 something. Yeah, in
Wow.
winter.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
not for so long. Maybe like sometimes we have that for like 1 week.
oh,
Sometimes.
okay.
And then afterwards, you have your -20, -10 ish, thereabouts. But winters can, that -30 week is always pretty harsh. But other
Oh,
than that, we're surviving.
Yeah, it's fine. I think let me just mention this. Canada is cold though. All of it that you're saying about Canada is cold
Well,
though.
well, not everywhere though. I mean, there's some
But Calgary
provinces
is
that
cold,
have
right?
much better. Yeah,
Yeah.
but Alberta generally is a much colder region when it's winter, and
Okay.
compared to other provinces, the temperatures get quite lower here. So Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, they get pretty cold,
Okay.
and there's some there are even much colder areas. But I mean,
Wow.
people don't really go to those places as
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
There's not really much going on there. So I just mentioned the popular ones that are quite cool.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, yes, thank you once again for joining us. And thank you to everybody that is here watching us. Just like I said, if you have questions, drop your questions. So, yes, sir. Let us go into our business for today. If
Yeah.
you don't mind, like, what was your academic background before relocating to Canada?
So I studied at Obafemi Awolowo University, Great
Oh,
Ife.
okay.
So I did bachelor's there in mechanical engineering as well.
Wow, nice.
Graduated in 2020, then COVID and all of that. So pretty much 2020 was gone. Then went for NYSC 2021, finished that 2022. Then I came here after my NYSC.
Nice. That's like quite a smooth path, I would say. That's really cool. So, like, how did
Maybe.
your application process begin? What was your first step? How did you come about this study abroad in Canada? A brief overview of the whole process, like just summary. Yeah.
Okay. So studying abroad, I got that idea first from one of my uncles or cousin. Is it cousin? Yeah, cousin is the right word. So he was in the US, studying and all of that. And so I think when I was in 400 level, thereabout, we spoke and he told me about the whole process of, you could travel abroad for masters or PhD, get scholarship, and all of that stuff. And so kind of like just planted that seed in me. And so as I was going through uni as well, I mean, that was 400 level, but I just try to make sure that I was putting into perspective the end goal, right? That, okay, CGPA wise and all of those things, I was doing it right so that I have what it takes to be competitive at the end of the day, right? When school is over, because, all of these applications, they depend on your profile, your CGPA, and all other things. So that was kind of like where it started from. And so when I finished and I was home 2020, COVID lockdown and all of that. So I started to like try my hands at some schools. I mean, because the person that spoke to me was from the US, my whole focus was on the US initially. And so I started that. I got a couple of admissions late 2020, but I was not getting funding. So I got some masters. I think I got like two masters and one PhD, but they were not funded, right? Those 2020 schools were doing a lot of application fee waiver and things like that. So it was easy to submit applications here and there. So I did all of that, but it didn't work out. And so I went and I said, okay, since this didn't work out, let me just go for GRE and, get a good profile, better my profile and all of that and give it a try again, 2021. And so that was kind of like the plan when I went into my NYSC. And so as I was serving, I was preparing for GRE. So I started serving in July 2021, I think. July or August. Yeah, somewhere around that. So as I started that, I registered for GRE for I think October of 2021 or November. So I started preparing and everything and everything. And I already had some schools too in the US that I was hoping to apply to. So along my preparation, I was also sending cold emails to professors in those schools and doing all of those background work. And before my GRE, so sometimes in October, I just saw this ad. So I'm on like a lot of all these WhatsApp group for scholarships and things like that. So somebody posted on that group like an ad from a professor here in, University of Calgary. And I saw it. It was the professor was looking for somebody with materials engineering background, but I'm coming from mechanical, right? But I saw that his kind of research seemed like I could relate a bit to it, because when I did my undergrad thesis, there were some things I could, kind of like connect to what he was doing. So I said, okay, let me give it a try. And to be honest, it was something that I saw. I ignored it for a while. Like 1 week, I was seeing it, but I didn't pay attention to it. And then eventually, on one Sunday evening like that, I was just like, let me just send this email. So I composed my, I had all my drafts already. So the way I used to work then was, every weekend or whatnot, you compose all your email, schedule it for Monday or Tuesday or whatever to go out. And so I composed my email and sent it over to the professor. And, I went about my life preparing for GRE. And like, I think 3 weeks later, yeah, sometimes in November, I guess, I just got an email response back and it was like, oh, I got your this, blah, 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 blah. I want to, meet you, have an interview with you, something like that.
Wow.
And I think I got that email on a Wednesday afternoon, there's like, and that was around October, right? So in October, it's still like about 7 hours time difference, if I'm not mistaken. Also, yeah, 7 hours. So I remember that was around 11 p.m. for me in Nigeria. For the professor, it was like 4 p.m. in his time. So he sent me that email on Wednesday. Let's meet the following day. So I tried to ask if we could shift it, to see, give me time to prepare and all. But it was like, the person they were going to be two that would, interview me. And so the second person was like, the person didn't have time after that day or something like that. So let's say, let's do it on Thursday. So I said, okay, no problem. So I went ahead. I think I just pretty much grabbed my slides from and he mentioned that he wanted me to present like my research, or I read one of his papers and just come present whatever I gained from it. So I had to prepare slides. So I went and I think I just grabbed my undergrad defense slide and just tweaked it a bit here and there, put in some more stuff and remove some things. And, that was just it. And then I went for that interview and that was it. And the interview went well. They liked what I talked about. They felt like I did a good job explaining my research and all of that. And the following day, I got the offer.
Wow. Wow. Like, honestly, I never knew that was your story. Thank you for sharing that. I believe to our viewers, they would, I actually like gained so many things, which I feel I would like to share to the
Okay.
viewers before we move to the next question. Number one, you were already like working towards the application. So, like, it was opportunity plus preparation that actually gave you that success, that result. So,
Yeah,
you
you could
guys
say
take note
that.
of that. The second thing is the fact that you belong to several groups where they shared opportunities. Like, join groups. I can't overemphasize this enough. Join groups, scholarship groups where they are sharing opportunity, communities, LinkedIn communities. Okay, join live sessions. You understand? And he already had an idea of what cold emails was like, and he was prepared already, and that was how he was able to like I get that. And yes, that's really cool. I like the fact that you did not say because we're looking at US and you saw Canada
Oh yeah.
along the line.
I mean, sometimes along the way too, even before that time, I got something in. I think there was something that was kind of like brewing up for me in, I think, South Korea or something. But
Wow.
like when I did my findings about the professor, and that's another thing, regardless whether you get funding somewhere or not, you also need to do some background checks
Yeah.
on your end. And I did a bit of background check, and people were like, "Oh, that funding isn't going to be enough for you. This professor is this, is that." A lot of information came in, and I just said, "Okay, let me just shove this aside and move on." And I think that happened maybe early 2021 or thereabouts. So
Wow.
I just moved on from that and focused on, okay, let me just keep going. So again, as you said, US was always what I had in mind. All my
Yes.
GRE preparation was for US, but when I saw the Canadian one as well, I just said, why not? Give it a shot.
Thank you. That is very smart, and that is what I tell people. Like, stay prepared when you get opportunities. Why not? You can always go for it. Another thing I
Yeah.
want to point out, I believe I don't know if that my friend is here or that like watching us right now. So you were in mechanical engineering, but you saw an opportunity in metallurgical, right? Am I right? Yeah,
Yeah,
so that does not mean that the title of the course is not really the main thing, but the content of research. That is what really matters.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so everyone, please pay attention. Forget about that. I did biology and you saw something related to something you did, maybe in biochemistry or something, and you're like, oh, the title. Please look at the research details. Very, very important. Okay. And I wanted to say something that you said to people that they are doing US or that US or no US. If I don't get US, please. This is why we are here to like enlighten you to go through. It's not, you can hear from me. He was actually preparing for GRE for US schools, but he got the Canada opportunity and he went for it. So yes, thank you so much for answering that question, for sharing your experience with us.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So like after that, you did not like have to go to the application process, right? Like the
I mean, once I got that in November, and remember that even at that time, US applications were still going on. So because you don't start to get results or application response for US fall admission of 2022 until like early 2022, right? So
Mhm.
I already got the admission and offer before even the end of the application season. So
Yeah.
I mean, because I already had those schools in the US in mind, I paid for GRE. I went ahead to write my GRE regardless. Even before the GRE, I had everything sorted. The offer was there, but I still went to do it because I mean I paid. So let me get my money's worth at least.
Yeah.
So I went for that, did it, and then my score wasn't that great. Well, I mean
You have a
I did
right to.
it.
Yeah,
So
good.
I did it, and then I did. I Because all of those schools I applied to in the US, they were all free applications. I didn't pay a dime. But for the Canadian school, I had to pay for that one.
Okay.
But
So
I
you're
because I
going
knew I had the offer already, so I
okay,
went ahead and paid
pay
for
for
the
the application.
application fee. Uh, so because they were free, I still went ahead and submitted. I got a couple of master's admission, but again, they didn't really come with funding, and I also didn't just press too much again on it because I already had something. So why
Yes.
disturb myself?
Sorry to cut you. Yes, and yes, it went to like you got funding right for your study abroad in Canada, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So a good thing to note. So I would say the trick that actually worked for you was like sending cold emails. So all of you that you will see all those adverts and you just like, what is this? You just ignore. You no, you never can tell. Maybe you are the one they are going to select. So prepare yourself, prepare your cold emails and shoot your shot. So
Yeah, and I'll add something there that I think when he sent me the email the next day, saying, "Oh, I got the offer and all," he told me then that there were 180 applicants thereabouts, and then they shortlisted 20 and
wow.
picked three. And so, I mean, again, just to let you know that code emails too are quite competitive. It's not like it's a walk in the park,
Thank you for
but
sharing.
I mean, if you fit in, to the requirement of what the person's looking for, you can stand a very good chance. But of
Hmm.
course, aside code email, there are other ways to go about funding and all of
Yes.
that I've heard about,
Yes.
especially for the US. Yeah, for Canada, I think it's mostly about reaching out first
Doing.
because. Well, I guess there will be questions on that, so I'll let you get
Yes.
there.
Yes. So to everybody, if you have questions, start dropping your question. We'll come back to it. Thank you for sharing that. That was quite insightful and on point. So I want you to just talk about the application. So you paid application fee. What are the
Yeah.
application documents that they should prepare for? Like they should, if you want to like go through that same process, the application requirement. Do you have to take IELTS, statement of purpose? Can you list them quickly?
So if I remember correctly, first majority of the schools they don't require you to prove your English proficiency
Good.
because you studied in Nigeria. Nigeria is usually a part of those schools or countries rather that they exempt from showing English proficiency. So I can say boldly that to a very high degree, you don't need that. Um, Even GRE, I rarely see that being requested.
Okay.
But one thing about Canada is if you're coming from bachelor's, you go for master's. You can't do that master's bachelor's to PhD thing here. You do masters first. When you finish your masters, or maybe with whatever you discuss with your professor, maybe when you're done with your coursework, you can switch up to PhD during the program or whatnot. But usually you have to like satisfy that, requirement for a master's first, get a master's degree and go for PhD. But if you have a master's already, then you can apply to a PhD program directly.
Okay.
So in terms of what you need, you just need, your application fee. You need your SOPs, that statement of purpose or statement of intent. Then you need your transcript, unofficial transcripts first to start. Then references, maybe 2 or 3. Yeah, I think that's about it.
It's quite similar to the US process too.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, nice. So I think I would say if you're applying to US, because you can also look at studying Canada opportunities as well, because the application, this thing, you just need to like edit and tailor your application materials to each school you're applying to. So that's a very thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so I think we have quite a lot of questions. You've talked about the whole application, this thing. You went through sending cold emails, you got the funding. So it's not like you have to apply to school directly. But do you think that actually works for some people?
No, yeah, so I think that's something I should mention, that what I find mostly is that schools would want you to get a supervisor first before you apply.
Okay.
So, and the only way, yeah. And the only way you get the supervisor is if you're reaching out to them via cold emails, right? Or they put out an advert, or you're just reaching out to them randomly by cold email, or if they put out an advert. That's pretty much the way you can. But what I find, at least I can speak for my school or my department, is that they need you to have a supervisor to get into MSc or PhD. And the only way you get that supervisor, they don't place you with a supervisor. You need to get them first. When the supervisor has agreed to fund you, then you apply to the school. So you don't have to spend your money first and not be sure whether you get your admission or not. So you're certain that you have the funding, then you apply.
Oh, thank you. That's smart. I think that's a very good one too. So when you get the funding, does it cover like your tuition, cost of living, right? Does it?
Yeah. So the way the funding is you get is pretty much a combination most times of research assistantship and teaching assistantship. So they combine those into 2, and then you get paid every month. And most of the time, or for year in UFC or University of Calgary, the way it works is you still pay your tuition. Only that first, if you are doing masters, your tuition is not the same as those. If you are doing research-based courses or program, it's not the same, because there are masters that are course-based, right? And there are masters that are research-based, but it's the research-based that is funded. And now, so your tuition is much lower than those that are not funded, or those that are doing the course-based, rather, masters. And then they give you the opportunity to pay instrumentally every month. So as you get your payment from the school, you're able to now make. So if your tuition in a semester is like 3,000 or 4,000, for instance, to divide that over 4 months, that's 750 to 1,000 that you have to pay every month to the school. And that has been factored into your funding already, actually, to make sure that you have room for, after you pay that, you have enough to still have, your living expenses should still be covered, after that. So I don't know why they do it like that, but they won't give you the tuition waiver outrightly. They'll pay you, and then you pay back, and you keep the rest, something like that. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think for people who do not get that, so your money covers, you're able to pay your tuition and still have stipend. Some schools in the US, they just pay your tuition by themselves and just pay you the stipend. That makes sense too. So far you're not stranded. So I think that is cool.
Yeah, you won't be. I mean, as long as it's full funding, you should be good. And I mean, when you come in as well, there's always opportunity to apply for more in school scholarships and stuff. Even I applied for a lot of them. I didn't get any, but I mean, you could be the lucky one that gets it.
Actually, right?
Of course, yeah. I do have a friend that got a couple of that. So I mean, and people even in my research lab, it just didn't work for me. Life
Nice.
goes on.
Yeah, it's okay. So now I and the question is talking about this, for studying in US as international, studying in Canada, you're an international student, right? So do you like have the restrictions of 20 hours or 40 hours to work on campus or off campus? What is it like for work restrictions? If you have your funding, can you still work off campus or on campus? Would like to know.
Yeah. So when you come to Canada as a student, typically you get that as you get that ability or that privilege to work part time. And I think right now, I'm not sure, it's either 20 or 24 hours. There was a time they lifted they made it full time, but now it's back to 20
Oh,
or
so
24
it's
hours
not
per
full
week.
time. Okay.
Except, so when in school is in session, it's that 20, I can't remember the actual figure now. It's either 20 or 24 hours, one of the two per week. But when school is out of session, you're on break, scheduled breaks, like summer period, you can work full time. And so even if you're funded, as long as you can make it work
Oh,
and you don't
really?
hurt, oh yeah,
Even if you are funded.
even if you're funded, first
Wow.
on campus you can work unlimited, right? It's not capped with the hours thing if you are doing on campus job. But if it's off campus, then you are capped by the 24 hours per week during school session. Or outside school session, you can work full time. And so even if you're funded or not, as long as I don't know, if your supervisor is, you don't necessarily have to tell your supervisor, but I mean, as long as you can make it work and you don't hurt your commitment to your research and whatever duties you have, that's fine. You can do as you like.
Oh, nice. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you. And yes, I'm just gonna pick a question from the audience. So, are there schools that waive application fee?
Not that I know of.
No, that. So
Yeah,
they
you
don't
pay.
give away in terms of
I don't
application
know. I don't
fee.
know. And because I
Okay.
remember too, because I had that ideology from the US application, I asked, my supervisor then as well. I told him, oh, are there tuition waivers? And he was like, he would check with the department. He checked and he said, no, there wasn't like that. So that's something that I rarely see happen here.
That's
Even
nice.
the US, I think it's toned down a lot now.
Yeah.
Before it was all over the place, but now I
That
think,
COVID period. Yeah.
yeah, but I think now everybody has toned down that thing, and you just have to you have to
Yeah,
pay.
they don't really give it to the internet. Yeah, that's true. So now somebody said I'm looking for opportunities to study abroad for akin that's cast for people in art and humanities. So like based on your experience studying at your school, what would you say are the opportunities for art and humanities?
Oh yeah, I mean there are,
Okay.
of course, maybe I don't know. I mean I'm not in that field, so I can't speak so much to it. But of course there are.
You have
Any
people around.
department,
Yeah.
any department will definitely have those. As long as they're doing research in the department, they will
Good
always
point.
have that.
Good point.
So, yeah, they always have that opportunity. It might just be limited in one department compared to the other and all of that, but it will always be there. So, I mean, I've had a couple of people that I know that were in like political science and all of those kind of art and humanities, field here. So it's something that you can get. It might just be a needle in a haystack, but you can get it.
Oh yeah, makes sense. Thank you. So yeah, we already talked about the old how you got your funding, the requirement, which is very important. It's quite similar to the US schools. I want us to like if you can think about your application back then, what do you say actually made you stand out? Like what do you think made you qualify for that thing? Maybe a tip, one or two that you can share aside the one you've talked about, so people watching that they can catch and just grab.
I don't know. I don't think I have anything special to say other than
It's just
it just happened, right? Like
oh, good,
what
good.
the background I had, the especially again circling back to my undergrad thesis or undergrad final year project. So that I think was very critical to me getting this opportunity because that was what I presented in the meeting or interview,
Yeah. Okay.
and that was it, right? And I think I just really did a good job explaining what I did. And in fact, I remember one of them commenting in that they thought that it was like a master's work I did back in the undergrad, final year projects. And so I guess that's just pretty much what was the, what would I call it? No, that's just pretty much what did it, right? They just really liked that. And
Oh,
that
cool.
was it.
Nice. That's cool. Somebody's asking a question about code emailing. I'm going to come back to that. Or I think we should just look at that now before I move into the research aspect. So, strategies, structures that made your code mail like maybe your code email, what made it stood out among others? Is there anything you could remember?
What I just remember is, I mean, I had like, there were a lot of information out there back then, and I think there's even a lot more now out there about how to put together your code email. So I was just basically following those templates, those
Can you
formats.
find an example for us so we can go and
So
check?
if I remember, first pretty much you say, okay, your first paragraph would just be like you introducing yourself and
Oh, yeah.
your background, and the second paragraph is you maybe talking about like you reading their paper or something like that, or you read something about them, give a brief.
Oh,
So they
wow.
will typically say then that you should try to like either explain what you understood from your paper or like ask a question from one of the papers you read, something like that. And then the last one is basically you just showing that interest and just showing how your experience or your background ties to what they are doing.
Yeah.
And then fourth one is just you closing out and hoping they respond.
Yeah. Don't give up,
Yeah, I
guys.
think that's pretty
That,
much how it goes.
yeah.
It's just about pretty much about you showing out what you know or your skills, how it ties to what they do and what they need at the moment. I
Thank
guess
you.
that's it.
Yeah, thank you. So guys, cold emailing. Take like I think because it's one key thing that is going to guarantee whether you're going to be accepted into that lab or not. So do your research well. Make sure your cold email is well structured. Give it to people to review to you. You understand?
Yeah.
So let us now we've talked about the application process and everything. So quickly let us dive into the visa application process. So I understand they don't go for visa interview, just like the way you have to go for US interview. So how is like the visa process? Do you have to get an I-20? Quickly walk us through, like just so they have an idea. Maybe probably the cost you have to like. Do you have to have a cost of attendance? We don't know. We're just asking.
Okay, so the thing is that visa process has kind of evolved since the time I came here to
Okay.
now. So I'll talk a bit about when I did mine and what
Yeah.
it's like now. So when I did mine, what I just pretty much did was, because as you said, there's no interview, right? So when you apply, you are encouraged to write something that they call a letter of explanation, or some will call it SOP. It's just pretty much you trying to explain the rationale behind why you're coming to study in Canada. So in that SOP, you would explain, you introduce yourself, talk about why Canada, why the school, why the course you are coming to study. And then you can talk about your funding. That's where you get to talk about your funding, then your home ties. Again, it's just something that kind of does the speaking for you because you're not there in person to talk or speak to a visa officer. It's just kind of like an explanation of who you are and all those kind of questions that they would have asked if you were in person. It's just you trying to put that down in the most clearest form on
Yeah.
paper, and you submit that alongside. I mean, there's the portal where you fill a lot of stuff and put in a lot of things, and then you do medicals, and then you also go for thumb printing or biometrics. Um, so those are the major three things you would, or the major two things: medicals, thumb printing, I mean biometrics, and then you go online, put all your application packages together, and submit. And everybody's profile is unique. Uh, you have to just be creative about what works for you, what fits into your own situation. And so, in terms of the attendance or cost of attendance or something that you mentioned, For me, because I had funding, I didn't need to do much. I just explained out what my funding covered. So Canada has, as at that time, what they wanted was you should have tuition and living expenses. Living expenses then was 10,000 per year, according to the immigration guys, right? But now it's 20,000.
Okay.
So yeah, so that time was 10,000. My funding then was somewhere around 20 something K per year.
Covered.
So 10,000, and my tuition was like less than 10,000 per year as well. So when I do that math, the funding I had available was more than the the funds I needed, right? More than what the expenses. So in the end, what you want is that your available funds should be more than your expenses,
Yeah.
so that you show that you are very capable. And in addition, even though I was funded, I still put in some personal funding to show that, again, because if you are funded to, your funding doesn't kick in until maybe after your first month. So I just wanted to show a bit of, okay, I have something that I can survive on before. I mean, again, it was just from advice and doing research and asking people that have walked the path before you and the advice they gave. I said, okay, try to put something together just to show that you're not over reliant on their funding. so I put together, as at then, I think about 4 million.
Wow.
And that was around 12,000 Canadian dollars then. Again, some people did lower than that. I had a colleague, my friend, that we came together. We went to same school in OAU. We both went to OAU. We got this funding together and all of that. And we came here together. He used is a bit slightly lower than me, and we still both got the visa. So again, it's just whatever works for you, whatever you're able to put together, as long as you're satisfied that funding available greater than expenses,
Yeah.
it should be good. So
All right.
basically, I just said that 4 million was for my initial rent, my feeding and whatever for first month, and then my airfare.
Like,
So
yeah.
I just tried to tie that around that and said, okay, that's what that money would cater for, and you know, uh, that was kind of like how I went about it. Yeah. What else again? What am I missing? Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to like proving like your home tie and all that, there's a lot that goes into that too. Your family back home is your own tie. If you got like a job that you were doing before you left, that can be your own tie. If you have like property or business, or you have something going on for yourself back home, you can use that as own tie. You have, either maybe you're married, for instance, your spouse is back home, is also another own tie. So a lot goes into the thinking and the thought process of putting your application together. So it's not a one size fits all, as I mentioned, for everybody, but there are some basic things the most important. That financial aspect is always very key, and you just have to show very well that you're capable. It's much easier when you're funded and your funding covers very well for all your expenses than when you're not funded and you have to pay out of pocket. Your source of funds, like if you're coming on your own and you want to pay your out of pockets, how you put that money together matters to them. They don't just want to see you bring, oh, I have 30,000. This is it. 2 days to your application. You just throw that money in your account and want to apply. It's a red flag. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into planning your application. So typically, I will advise people to start 1 year ahead.
Yeah.
If you're coming for a certain term, start 1 year before that term in your planning and everything, so that you have enough time to plan your funds if you are not funded, and then give you room to apply for your visa, get your response. God willing, you get it, and get your air ticket early. You don't have to pay too much when you book earlier. And all those intricacies that are involved. Yeah, I think so.
That's
Yeah,
it.
as I was saying, one thing, sorry, is that things have changed now, right? So as I was saying, living expenses then was 10,000 for me. Now it's 20,000. So if I were coming to school year with that same funding I got then, imagine that 20,000 out of what I was getting as funding was already going to living expenses. That means 6,000. Let's say I was getting 26,000 as my funding per year, and 20,000 is what the immigration wants to see as living expenses. When I had tuition of maybe 8,000, that's 28. So if I'm getting funding of 26, that means I'm in a deficit. I still need to look for more money on the personal side to add, right? Even though in reality, you might come in and not spend up to that 20,000 per year
But
in
they
living
want to,
expenses, but they want to see that, right?
yeah.
Because they believe that's the amount that will put you in a much more comfortable place. And you don't have to be, running a skelter when you get here and, looking for how to survive. So, but I think schools too now, I remember that before I graduated, actually, my funding increased. Yeah, they increased the funding at some point. So I'm not sure what the figure is now for, but I know it has increased. I think it has increased and it's a bit better and should probably be able to cover. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. I want to believe that if you were someone and you were clueless about the whole study in Canada, you have a good idea and you can get started. Start on time, send that code emails, especially if you are looking for funding and submit your doc. Once you get that approval, you pay your application fee and you get the requirement. So I want us to be straight with the 45 minutes. So thank you to everyone that has joined us. Before we head into this section, I'm going to ask Satije, Mr. Muridin, to please leave us with a word of advice for people that, yeah. So can we get more
No, I mean,
funding?
if you have more stuff, let's go for it. I mean, there's no problem. If there's still more questions or anything
Actually,
from
like
the
we actually
audience.
have accommodated all the questions, I would say.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So somebody is saying, can we get more funding in the US? I think yes, there are a lot of opportunities for funding in the US, but today is strictly for Canada. We're going to have more sections on studying in abroad in USA. You understand? So because so many people don't know how to go about this um study abroad in Canada, including me myself. So I believe somebody like Samuel Eden that has gone through the process. Yes. So he was asking that can we get more funding in Canada? In he
More
mentioned it
funding in what sense?
like aside the this thing you talked about, the one you said in that you applied for.
You mean like after you come in and you're studying, like can you get like more scholarship in the
Yeah,
school? Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, there are usually like scholarships. Most departments would have scholarship that open like yearly that you can keep applying for, and if you're lucky enough, you might get one or two of that, and
Oh,
that gives
I
you
think
more.
yeah. I think I actually know the person asking the question. Thank you so much for asking the question. We appreciate you, sir. So thank you for answering our questions, for doing justice to our questions, and thank you once again for honoring our invite. To
No
end
problem.
with, I would appreciate if you just somebody that wants to apply for study abroad in Canada, back in Africa or anywhere. What is that advice would you give to them? Maybe any word of encouragement or something they should do? And we end with that. We have just 2 minutes. Yes.
Um, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that it's more of planning. A lot of planning goes into it, somewhat, and it's about the kind of situation that you want to come here with. If you want to come here funded, what you need to do might be more than somebody that might be less or more than what somebody that has their money would do. So if I'm looking for funding, I know that my greatest hurdle is getting the funding. Once I get it, it's kind of like much easier to go through the visa process once you get that funding. But for somebody that is not funded, that wants to pay out of pocket, then you need to put in a lot of work to put your money together because you need those funds when you're
Mm-hmm.
applying for your visa. So getting admission, kind of places you want to go in terms of the province, the city you want to go to, and you need to think a lot about your post-study plan as well,
Good.
because it's
Thank you
not
for
just about graduating and everything or coming to school and graduating. You also want to think about what you want to come and study too. How does it make sense to your post-study plans and career? So I will mention that if you study here, if it's a master's or PhD, and you do minimum of 2 years program, you will get a 3 years work permit after you're done. I mean, provided you did not flout any rule or anything during your study that raises any red flag. So within that 3 years now, you have to now think of how you can use it to your advantage to, if you want to keep staying in this country, then you need to try and work towards getting like a permanent residency during that 3 years. And there's another whole story behind permanent residency
Yeah, I
again.
think that would be like part two. That would be like part
Yeah,
two of our live
that,
session.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
am also still on that path. It's not like
yeah,
I've
yeah. I
achieved
get
it
you.
yet,
Yeah, I
but
get
it's another ball game entirely. So
you.
especially if you're paying out of pocket, you want to be careful that you're coming to spend your money wisely, and whatever you're coming to study will be beneficial to you post study and towards if you want to stay afterwards. So I guess that's going to be my kind of parting words.
Thank you so much, sir. I really do appreciate you. And thank you to all our viewers that has joined us today. I am grateful to you all. If you're yet to subscribe, please subscribe. And sir, what's a good way for people to reach out to you? LinkedIn, TikTok,
Yeah, I mean, I guess LinkedIn would be the
LinkedIn.
one.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. Thank you to everybody. And that will be the end of today's live session. You guys should watch out for Study Abroad in Australia and Study Abroad in Turkey coming up next week. Thank you so much. I'll see you
Awesome.
guys.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for having me. Appreciate it.